Deals, deals, deals. Tariff deals, deals, deals. Liberation Day party deals.
Liberation Day. Waiting for a long time. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed.
The Liberation Day party kicked off with an acronym, MAWA, Making America Wealthy Again.
Make America wealthy again. We're gonna make it wealthy.
Or MAGWA.
Okay, good and wealthy.
Making America good and wealthy again. Hello everyone, this is Alexander F. O'Neary. I'm taking a look at the Liberation Day, that party that kicked off on Wednesday the 2nd, where other people had different nicknames for the day.
Some folks had their own names for the big day.
It's Recession Day.
Could be Obliteration Day.
Call it a little bit more like Crash Test Day.
Hypertension Day, because it's going to give us all a heart attack.
I call the bash the heads in of your trading partners day.
I realized we were returning to the President McKinley days when we didn't have any computers or any AI technology, but we had a cardboard by Howard Lutnick when he showed up brandishing his show and tell card.
Howard Lutnick. Thanks. So,
this was going to be a reciprocal tit for tat tariff, as the president told us.
the tariffs will be not a full reciprocal. I could have done that. In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world.
Reciprocal a few times.
Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them.
We started off with China, part of the Dirty 15, which is made of 29 nations.
China, first row. China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset?
The justification of the tariffs seemed all over the place. We were blaming fentanyl, blaming illegal immigrants, anything you could throw at it, really.
You know, you think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%, so we're charging them essentially half.
The European Union is already preparing tariffs in response to the US steel and aluminium levies from last month.
Vietnam, great negotiators, great people.
World leaders reacted as in this clip by the Canadian president.
Canada got the best of a series of bad deals. That's true. But we did get a better deal than any other country.
Mark Carney, who was, I think, an ex-British central bank governor. Then we had Francis Eric Lombard.
Il faut attendre dans les semaines qui viennent de voir comment la négociation avec les États-Unis d'Amérique s'engage et comment elle évolue. Si on peut rapidement, ce qui est tout à fait possible, arriver à un accord avec un désarmement des mesures qui ont été engagées, un désarmement des mesures qui vont être annoncées par l'Union européenne, on peut encore avoir une année qui soit une année de croissance certes modérée mais positive.
The French finance minister there, the Italian prime minister Giorgio Meloni took it in her stride, and while she was meeting and greeting and kissing, she said this.
No. Allora, sono ovviamente preoccupata. È un problema che va risolto. Non ne farei la catastrofe che sto ascoltando in questi giorni, che mi preoccupa per paradosso più del fatto in sé, perché noi dobbiamo ricordare che parliamo di un mercato importante, quello degli Stati Uniti, che vale circa il 10% delle nostre esportazioni totali. Noi non smetteremo di esportare negli Stati Uniti.
Chile's financial minister, Mario Marcel, was a bit more, tight-lipped.
Como gobierno lamentamos profundamente estas medidas, particularmente el hecho de ser objeto de un arancel que no parece tener justificación.
And South Africa's trade minister, Pak Tao, took it in his stride.
In reality, the systems of the World Trade Organization have not been considered in the application of the executive orders that were issued in relation to trade.
And Mark Rubio's reason for them doing this appears to be this.
We have to be a country that thinks we're the largest consumer market in the world, and yet the only thing we export is services. And we need to stop that.
It seems everyone is going to try and do some deals with Trump, which is what he really wants, I believe.
The UK is hoping to get a deal with Washington, but the Foreign Secretary expressed frustration as the FTSE 100 today saw its biggest one-day drop since COVID.
I regret the return to protectionism in the United States, something that we've not seen for nearly a century.
Although the tariffs have gone up, they haven't gone up as much as they have on some key competitors.
Other nations hit by the 10% were also McDonald Island, which is inhabited by penguins and seals. And they got a great deal, the best deal, the greatest deal from Donald Trump. Let's turn to Times Radio's Kate Bosa, discussing this with in-depth analysis.
I wonder if it makes you worried that Heard Island and the McDonald Islands, they're external territories of Australia, have had a 10% tariff set against them, yet those islands are only home to penguins and seals.
Well, I think that just illustrates the folly behind the policy.
Yeah, but it's also worrying, is it not? Because someone's not even got out a map and had a look.
China, on the other hand, hit back with its own reciprocal tariff, going 34% for 34%. And Trump on Truth Social said China was doing it the wrong way. They're going about it the wrong way. They're not playing the game properly. So what did people really think was going to happen when these tariffs were introduced? Of course, investors expected a crash, and that's exactly what they got. What happened to the NASDQ and SNP 500 was they created badly. 2.7 trillion, I believe, was wiped out.
Stocks are tumbling.
Yesterday, US stocks lost $3 trillion in value. Today, they slumped on the open after China announced retaliatory tariffs of 34% on all US goods. For President Trump, this is all par for the course as he enjoys his Florida golf club, with him and his cabinet saying this was the storm before the calm.
Well, what about crypto? While the S&P 50 was crashing, crypto appears to be taking it like a man, should we say. Bitcoin stood between 80 and 83,000. Things like EOS, Grass, Atom, saying that Bitcoin is showing you what it's supposed to do when everything else is crashing. In other words, digital gold. But
critics are now saying Trump could be making America the 1930s again, with warnings of a depression.
The president made one of the dumbest decisions in history, one that will negatively impact every single American family. He's walking us into the dumbest and most avoidable recession probably in history.
Back to the TradFi world, the art of negotiation started hitting its stride with Vietnam, Cambodia, McDonald Island, and trying to do deals.
Just listen to this. In the last 24 hours, his advisors said there would be no room for negotiation on the tariffs. Then last night on Air Force One, Trump said he was open to tariff talks, provided countries came to him with offers that were, quote, phenomenal.
Trump's love of negotiating, or negotiations, you see what I did there? I'm going to copyright that, meant he's trying to buy TikTok off China in order for him to reduce the tariffs to them. And people trying to buy TikTok include Amazon, Polkadot, probably Elon Musk, and a host of other people.
Trade between the U.S. and China is at a financial crossroads. Beijing has retaliated against Donald Trump's latest tariffs with its own measures, including a 34% tariff on all U.S. goods and restrictions on exports of rare earth minerals. But recently, he suggested he's willing to make a deal. The sale of Chinese-owned TikTok app, widely popular in the U.S., could be part of the bargain.
Al Jazeera there, talking about the sales of TikTok.
Trump says China played it wrong. They panicked. He says the one thing they cannot afford to do is panic. And this is a 34% tariff that's been imposed on U.S. imports. So what are your thoughts, first of all? Were you pro-tariffs when you first saw these? What was your position?
You know, I'm pro-tariffs in the sense that I think it would likely bring inflation down, and likely, which seems like what Trump's trying to do, likely bring inflation down, likely have more rate cuts sooner, and likely inject more money into the system. So I think you need to be careful with tariffs. I think what Trump is doing is, let's go really hard, and now let's try to immediately negotiate after you see that inflation. What's happening now? They're renegotiating with Vietnam, and it's probably everything with Trump is obviously known to be up for renegotiation. So I think this could be one of those places that this is the peak fear for it. And as Trump takes a cooler stance in the coming weeks, then we'll see more negotiations and things get a little bit lighter.
Evan Aldo there, talking about what he thinks Trump's strategy really is. Because Perhaps what he's really doing is he's pining for the Fed to slash the interest rate.
President Trump told the head of the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates today, but he also wasn't listening, warning of the risks ahead.
So by taking us to the extreme of recession, which is now gone from 30% likelihood to about 65% of likelihood, according to Polymarket, he expects Jerome Powell to cut and slash the interest rate. But of course, Jerome Powell is going,
yeah, but no, but yeah, but no, but yeah.
But no, but yes, but no.
It is now becoming clear that tariff increases will be significantly larger than expected. And the same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth.
Well, how confusing, Christian, it must be for the Federal Bank chairman to set monetary policy looking into the tea leaves if President Trump is your president. So he clearly is open to some forms of negotiation.
Howdy! No, Black Monday, according to Altcoin Daily, was going to come in very strong.
I mean, are you kidding me?
A stock market crash, just like the 1987 Black Monday collapse, has a strong possibility of happening again this Monday, April 7th, if President Donald Trump doesn't course correct immediately.
A day of turmoil which started with double-digit falls in Asia spread rapidly to European markets, and then here. Since Trump displayed his tariff card in front of an astonished world last week, we've seen some of the worst losses since the crash of 2008. This evening, President Trump has threatened China with a further 50% of tariffs.
Channel 4 reported it was mayhem and turmoil. The Democratic influencer, Brian Tyler Cohen, with 4.7 million followers, saw it a bit like this.
The market has crashed, wiping away all gains since Trump took office. Companies are laying off employees by the hundreds. Fears of a recession are reaching a fever pitch. And far from spooking other countries into coming to the negotiating table, they're actually going around the United States and entering into new trade agreements without us, including, by the way, with China. New reporting suggests that Japan and South Korea are teaming up with China to respond to our tariffs imposed by Trump.
Another influencer, Lark Davis, he reported on China's stock market being slaughtered.
China's Hang Seng Index slaughtered today. Worst day in 20 years or something like that. Hong Kong down 13, Taiwan 9, Japan 9, Italy 8, Singapore 8, Sweden 7. You can see on down the list here. Absolutely savage, disgustingly brutal day in global markets. Donald Trump's not just crashing the U.S. stock markets, he's crashing everything. Global markets, commodities markets, crypto markets. Everyone is feeling the hurt, which means that everybody is going to have to come and somehow negotiate an end to this insanity.
And of course, everyone ran to the negotiation table, and that they did. House of Crypto, another big influencer, reported that the Fed was coming to the table.
The S&P 500 is now erasing losses after investors are rushing to buy the tariff-driven dip. The Federal Reserve has announced that they're about to have an emergency meeting to discuss the potential for interest rate cuts, something that Donald Trump, the President of the United States, has been desperate to try and get the Federal Reserve to do, because as soon as the Federal Reserve do that, he is able to start growing his economy. This has all been one big game, and he's basically been getting away with it right now.
I guess we have to wait for the next few days to see what really transpires. And if the Fed is pushed to make one of his cuts earlier, maybe end of April, that coupled with China also bringing in quantitative easing, then we might have a chance of a real bull run. So until next time, this is Alexander F. Nileri saying, what the hell's going on? It's a mess out there.